Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, wherever you are. My name is Michael, and I am here with Antony, hosting whatever episode we'll end up calling this episode 1, episode X, episode unknown, whoever, whatever, whenever, however, anything ever. So welcome to the show, and we hope you find this as informative as we hope it is, and as enjoyable as we hope it is as well. Yeah, I think hope works, but we are definitely having a lot of fun doing this. So,
Definitely.
So yeah. Just to get us going with something random, a quote from Michael Wazowski of Toy Story fame.
Take us. Tell us.
Follow the sultry sound of my voice. That does not have anything to do with tech, but it is
absolutely nothing to
it is absolutely ridiculous.
But then the making of
it's ridiculous enough that it works. But on to serious stuff. 1.1. For those of you who may be on that scene, something interesting happened over the past couple of days. I think October 3rd, October 4th, or October 2nd. Anyway, whenever it happened, a Bitcoin wallet containing approximately $1 billion US.
what?
That's sinking. $1 billion US.
A B.
1 billion. How much does that equate to in KES?
100 billion, I think.
Yeah, approximately. Was emptied.
Hackers.
Probably. The wallet in question, the address to the wallet in question had been circulating amongst hackers, crackers, etc., for approximately 2 years. So it seems that someone finally got the password.
Do they know who owned the wallet, or it's like one of those anonymous?
Well, you know how it is
You
know how it is with these things.
I mean, Bitcoin was invented for anonymity.
Yes. So whoever this guy is, well,
or guys.
Although, whatever, I'm not going to open that can of worms right now. Whoever it is who got access to that, they're sitting pretty, smiling all the way to the bank.
Well, I don't think it's in a bank though, but
yeah,
it's a phrase.
Figure of speech.
Figurative speech. So.
But now that we have got that out of the way, for more information, you can check out Blipping Computer. I don't know if I should say it, but it's good to reference the sources.
Shout out to the source.
Yeah. And we're all about what's the word that you'd go with? Transparency. That's the word. Transparency. That's the word.
Yeah.
But on to today's topic of discussion. Tony, have you had the big news?
Oh yeah. Is it what I think it is?
I don't know. What are you thinking?
Is it about 10th November something?
Yeah.
Then we're on the same page.
It seems like it for once. For those of you who may or may not know, this is an Apple event that's been announced for the 10th of November. Now, analysts report that it could be when some new MacBooks are released.
Ooh,
now,
spooky.
Do you know why this might be of particular significance, Tony?
I mean, the fact that I knew it's the 10th of November, I already know what it is. So, word on the streets, the tech streets, or the tech highways, is that Apple is about to make a one more thing sort of transition. Right? It's one of those monumental to the company, as they would so call it. Arguable. But finally, Apple might be making not finally, they are. It's decided. They confirmed in their last keynote, I believe. WWDC back in July.
I think it was June, July. Whatever.
Yeah. That they were going to transition from Intel to Apple chips. Cool, that's exciting. For you, if you've ever used anything above iPhone 10, I believe. No, 7.
6 or 7.
Yeah,
it was
7, I think. When is it that the iPad became like really incredible in terms of performance anymore? I think it was a 11, the chip.
I mean, arguably the iPad has been significant since the day it was announced.
Oh, true. But like when it comes to like things you can actually do with an iPad, you see, to me, I feel like for the longest time an iPad was a nice to have. Like you couldn't really do a whole lot on an iPad. But then I think when the A11 chip came out, people were like, wait a minute, maybe there's something, here or something like that. So yeah, am I correct? Is that the big news?
Well, that is the big news. I feel like perhaps you might slightly have misrepresented the
highly probably
the chip status on Apple devices and the iPad. However, suffice to say that Apple devices from the iPhone to the iPad are known for having incredible, and it must be emphasized, incredible performance. And Apple are hoping they can bring this performance from the iPad and the iPhone to their entire Mac lineup from, I think, if rumors are to be believed, from the MacBook the following week.
This in a week or so.
Yeah, just under a week, yeah. So from the MacBook, I think rumors say MacBook Pro at the very least and MacBook Air, I think. But for those of you who are closer to your device, actually, I don't know why I'm saying closer to your devices when it's just as easy to check that up. Tony, do you want to check out these facts for our watchers and listeners?
Sure thing.
But yeah, as you do that, I can be filling people in on what this means.
Just tell us, Michael, why is this so big? Like in the tech community or for all Apple people, why should I care as an average consumer? Why should I care? How does it affect me, or does it not affect me in any sort of way?
As an average consumer, well, there are a lot of hopes floating around. One being that it might be cheaper to the entry point into the Mac ecosystem might be cheaper. However, there's a bit of a caveat against that because I personally don't think that is likely to happen due to the massive amount of R&D, the massive cost behind the development or the undertaking of such a project is unlikely to reflect in the prices, and so you might find that the entry point is even higher due to that. However, knowing the possibility or knowing how hard a sell it might be, I probably think Apple might take a hit on that and perhaps not quite offset the initial, well, at least in the initial run, offset the R&D costs. But I guess we'll wait and see once the announcement is official. There are other more tangible, tangible benefits potentially to the average consumer. One, the weight and size of the devices themselves. Apple Silicon compared to Intel, compared to AMD, would probably be more power efficient. And we'll get back to this.
I mean, look at the size of the iPads.
Yeah.
Incredible thinness and the performance gains are just
quite. And getting back, we'll get down to this eventually, but one can also look at the Surface Pro X line from Microsoft. Incredibly thin, and actually incredibly thin.
And are those Microsoft chips inside?
No.
Or Microsoft design?
It's the branding is Microsoft. However, it's based on a Qualcomm chip, the Snapdragon 8CX, unless I'm mistaken. So with the recent release of the Surface Pro X2, there is a second generation of that with optional 5G, not on the Surface Pro X, but the chip itself has the provision for that. So it's something that's been co-engineered with Qualcomm. So Microsoft and Qualcomm have co-engineered the chip. Also, they would have us believe. I'm not going to doubt them because, why would they lie?
Yeah.
No, they wouldn't actually.
Well, we hope
I really hope this is edited out in the final run because no one is going to be happy about what I've just said.
No.
But anyway, we digress. The Surface Pro X line is incredibly thin, at least when compared to the Surface Pro 7.
Yeah.
And that is just one of the things that's just one of the benefits that comes with switching to, I know many people say ARM, but I feel like I personally stick to ARM, but for the sake of this discussion, ARM. That's one of the benefits to ARM. Another is, I've already talked of thinness and weight of the devices.
Yeah.
Instant on capabilities. It's something that's we're kind of starting to see in Intel chips right now, but it's something, and I'm going to use this analogy of your phone. You don't, when your phone has been asleep, you don't open it up, press a button, wait for a boot sequence or a resume sequence. No, it just starts up. And that's one of the benefits that comes with these chips. Now, I don't quite know if that will come to Apple, or to Apple devices, but that is something we're seeing a lot of in the Windows world, where something is instant on. You open your device, boom, you're logged in, you're signed in, you have your desktop, whatever you are working on, open and ready to go. It also comes in with connectivity, 3G, 4G, 5G, etc., etc. There are a few other benefits, but I won't bore you to tears with them.
Well, I feel like I've been an Apple user so far. I can already see where this is going. I mean, if you check the continuity and the user experience, as they like to call it in the tech universe, the ecosystem benefits of having everything inside that gadget being designed, manufactured by one company it's out of this world. Like, disregard the physical attributes from the thinness to stuff, but just the sheer ease of interacting with devices. Like, I don't know, I find Apple know how to do their stuff. I think it's like a universal thing, knowledge, that these guys definitely know their stuff. Like, you'd think most companies, it's the marketing team that is good, but these guys happen to be marketing and engineering. They're on top of the game. Like, that, to quote, I don't know who said this, but often the best tech is that which you cannot see. Like, it just works like magic, and I feel like Apple really nails that thing, right? Sometimes as a tech person, I feel like they're centuries behind in what they're offering, but the thing I like is once they do it, it's as if it's never been done before. I don't know, maybe I'm just an Apple sheep, but it feels like it's never been done before. Like, they ensure that the tech just works.
Precisely. And that actually brings us to one of the concerns, I'd say, about this transition. There have been this would be the third major transition?
I think the first one was from
PowerPC to Intel.
PowerPC to Intel, then now Intel to
Apple Silicon.
Yeah.
I feel like we might be forgetting something, but
try something that ran on like the initial Mac.
But anyways, such is life. So their performance and things, the just works side of things. Yes, you brought in a very good point about that control of everything from the hardware,
design to the engineering,
all the way to the software. It's fantastic, and it really gives them a lot of control in terms of what runs and how things run.
The experience,
which has its pros and cons. The walled garden that those of you who frequent tech forums will know about. But back to the it just works thing. It's tricky, and I say this not just as somebody who isn't quite sold on the Apple magic yet, but as somebody who has seen the developments across such transitions over the past couple of years. And I say this because, one, Apple themselves had, should I start with one? Do you do one like with one finger, or do you do like one with your thumb? How do you count one?
For
What
me,
you
it's
or you used? All right. So anyway, whatever it is. So one, Apple did a transition from, well, I'm not going to say transition. They killed off support for 32-bit applications.
Right.
And that was in Catalina, was it?
Yeah.
Oh.
No, I think it's before that. Wax Lion, I think. Some weird.
So
thing, yeah.
they killed off support
Yeah.
for 32-bit applications, and that was a big deal, because it's, I mean, yes, most machines are 64-bit nowadays. However, certain applications running would need access to certain libraries or what have you in order to run, and those applications, once that update rolled out, meant you couldn't do a thing with them. I mean,
they were thrown straight into the bin.
All of a sudden you have an
RIP,
application you have an application running, and I think this affected a number of Adobe applications actually,
Quite.
where they were using some libraries or whatever that hadn't quite been updated, and so one day you install an update, because I mean all of us are excited when we see, oh, we have an update, and these updates usually mean
waiting for Big Sur.
These updates usually mean something good, like visuals or some features that have been added that just work with your workflow, and yeah, but all of a sudden you have all these applications that are suddenly rendered useless.
Yeah.
And that's just transitioning from 30, or rather not transitioning, killing off support for 32-bit applications. Same chip, same instruction set, whatever.
Same box you've got. Yeah.
But all of a sudden you can't run
the same applications you used to.
Exactly.
Which reminds me, Michael, we are developers ourselves. For those people who wonder what our background is, as software engineers ourselves, like, if you code on a Mac, what does that mean for me with the transition?
Ideally, it shouldn't mean much. I mean, you'll still use the same tools, assuming they're updated.
Will I experience the bit 32 sort of?
Assuming they're updated, because you see, this is where the Surface Pro X line comes in, where I'd touched on it earlier. And that's the second point actually in my argument as to whether this "it just works" thing will hold true, at least initially. Because the Surface Pro X, very good device, very well engineered. Surface Pro X, also for those of you who may not be in the know, is a tablet / PC from Microsoft. Very nice looking machine, except for those of you who use headphone jacks, because there is no headphone jack, unfortunately. Anyway, I've made my peace with that. Doesn't take courage. That was a user hostile move, but I've made peace with it.
Yeah.
That's a battle for another day. So anyway, back to the subject at hand. The Surface Pro X was a very well received device, and it was at the top end of what you'd expect in terms of performance from the very nascent Windows on ARM platform, because there were a number of devices that were released but didn't quite have the processing horsepower to run. So enter Surface Pro X, which ideally should have the horsepower to run. But horsepower isn't everything. The software, you also need the software, and that's where things kind of fell flat. This was in 2019 for those of you who may not know when it was released. So in 2019 it's released, comes to market, very good looking device. However, the software isn't quite there yet. There were a number of applications that did not run, would plain not run at all on this device, and that's simply because of the chipset. The chipset determines the instruction set. It will determine how things will run on your machine. So you've got the same basic Windows 10 that you're used to, and you may love or hate, whichever camp you fall into. You've got what should be powerful hardware, but because the software isn't quite there yet, then everything you'd think should run doesn't.
Yeah.
And so you find yourself in a situation where the applications you need in your workflow
Yeah.
might not quite work. Now, of course, there were certain things, support has improved, but that's the meat of the bone, on the bones, as it were, if I could put it that way, because you've got the hardware. The hardware is well done, and Apple know how to do very good hardware.
Fantastic.
But will the software
catch up?
Because thing is, you've got apps that probably never will be recompiled to run on the platform, on the new chips. And in cases like that, what does that mean for the end user? It means, your
rewrite code.
You've got a Mac that doesn't run something that it used to.
Yeah.
You've got a Mac that looks, well, I don't know how it looks, but you've got a Mac that should look.
Let's be honest, they all look fantastic, no matter
that
how
should
old
look
it is.
like the Mac that you're used to,
Yeah.
but doesn't run what you're used to running. Of course, there are certain things that Apple have provided, like Rosetta 2.
Yeah, the Rosetta 2.
That kind of abstracts all of that from the end user perspective, where you've got an application that hasn't been quite compiled for it, but runs.
It's like one abstraction layer to sort of take care of the 32-bit problem. You gotta give it to Apple for learning from their mistakes and knowing that they might probably screw up a whole lot of end users and companies in the process. So plus it's going to take 2 years, so it gives it's like a fair warning to all the guys there, the developers and the end users of probably in 2 years you either upgrade or
however,
do something about it.
And here's the however. You see, emulation is not a new thing.
No,
again,
it's not.
Windows on ARM will do the same thing. Runs an emulation layer on things that aren't natively compiled, so that it runs. However, that brings up bottlenecks. One, that battery life that is supposed to be a key selling point suddenly takes a hit. Two, things will run a bit warmer than they should, and result fan noise. So,
and a very hot laptop if your base is metallic.
And a very hot laptop. So those are things that I am not too sure of. From a developer's perspective, well, I know a number of developers, let me put it that way, a number of developers have got on board with Microsoft's VS Code. And Microsoft has been playing well with other ecosystems. So ideally there should be support for, especially if you're doing basic things like web and what have you, ideally things should just run. But what if they don't? Are you suddenly going to find yourself with a paperweight that doesn't do what you want it to? Those are all pertinent questions, and I think Apple knows it's going to be a hard sell. But, what can we do? That ship is sailing, or it's prepping to sail.
It's a done deal. They've decided. They're moving. So you either move with them or be extinct, just like Nokia.
Wow.
Oops.
hey, I'll have you know, son, that I have a Nokia phone sitting with me right here.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I'm not going to show it to people because they might be able to identify. Plus, it has a weird stick at the back that's faded, so I'm not going to show it right now.
Privacy. Yeah. That's the only thing we have left, guys. We have to fight for it. As a tech guy, I can't believe I'm saying this, but privacy is all we have left.
But yeah, for more centered on the subject, I'd say, what does it mean for developers? I don't know. I honestly don't know.
But you as a developer, hypothetically, I know you're not an Apple user. If you are, you've seen developers do it at our company. We have a bunch of devs who use the Macs as their primary laptop for work. How would you make the transition?
Well, I would make the transition simply because it's something. It looks something new, like, and I mean, it's shiny. It's
Like
new.
the newness of it attracts.
It's shiny and it's new. So, yeah, it looks shiny. It looks new. It looks good. Well, the demo of the benchmarks, the performance benchmarks that have surfaced online. Anyway, the benchmarks that have been surfacing online, what have you. But it might mean if you do have something that runs on Mac, it means you better get on that code, boy, because especially if it's something that has a wide user base, and even if it doesn't have a wide user base, don't make this an unsupported GitHub project. No one likes to see those. No one
Last
likes
touch
to
was
see.
5 years ago.
No one wants to see those, and I mean, of course, we understand these things sometimes will happen due to certain unfortunate occurrences on the part of the developer, but it's always good to have something that just works. And this transition to Apple Silicon opens up new possibilities for developers, because something that came out during the WWDC demo was that apps that have been built for
Apple Silicon?
Yes, Apple Silicon, meaning up to this point, mobile phones, tablets, or rather, as Apple would want you to say, iPhones and iPads.
Thank you. I don't know where I'm being ambassador for Apple right now.
So yeah, things built for those can run on your laptop. And in fact, there was a demo that of a game. I can't remember what game it was, but there was a demo of a game that had been built for the mobile devices running on a Mac.
Because I remember, taking back, I think, WWDC 2 years ago, when they introduced the whole transition in, I think, iPhone apps to iPad apps, or one of the two, is when...
Catalyst apps?
Yeah, Catalyst, that's the word, thank you. Is when I probably felt like there's something... These guys are hinting at something, like they don't want to say. I feel from there is when they laid the ground of, guys, maybe we have something going on here, because there are a bunch of developers who onboarded onto the whole Catalyst application thing, which is not a new concept because Microsoft has been doing it for a while now.
For a long
Google
while.
has been doing it for a while now with Flutter and stuff like that. But it's arguable, like they're two different targets, the thing, but the message is the same. It's being able to write once, deploy everywhere sort of concept, which for a developer is a time saver. Oh my god,
it is a time saver, but
there's a curve, there are costs, like just like anything in the dev world, you gotta pay the consequences of your choice. Like, I mean, yeah, there are tools, but you gotta pay the consequences of your choice. Anyways, going back to to the previous connotation I was at, is I feel like that decision to build Catalyst apps and having the reception that they got was a solidified moment for Apple of, okay, maybe this is the time to do that transition. And I don't know, this is a different tangent, but have you seen how Big Sur looks like?
Ish.
I mean, you saw it on the demo. You've probably seen it on like a few your favorite YouTuber guys, tech YouTubers. You've probably seen it. Do you think Apple is going to do a touch screen?
The day they do that is the day. I don't know. I really don't know, because going back to the WWDC that you just referenced, Apple, or rather when they announced the Catalyst apps, there was a question, are we going to merge platforms? And there was a massive no that just checked in. And I feel like it's macOS isn't engineered. I mean, yes, we're seeing the UI elements switching. There's a lot more space and what have you, but it's not radically built from the ground up with touch in mind. And I say that because one only needs to look at what Microsoft did with Windows. Windows 8 was a complete overhaul of what you'd grown to know and love with
the
Windows.
whole design language and everything.
And they did that because of that switch to touch devices, and that was a key focus for Microsoft and where they wanted their partners to go. It's also when they released the original Surface, if I'm not mistaken.
Those are good commercials though.
But yeah, that's something I don't think Apple want to do, because they've also been pushing the iPad Pro as a computer. And well, I don't want to get into this discussion right now. I mean, it is a computer, but does it do what you'd expect your computer to do? The jury is still out on that.
I don't think it's there yet.
But
at least not for every use case of a computer.
Yes.
I mean, for designers, it might work perfectly fine, but for a dev guy, arguable.
And so that's the thing. Like, I don't think they want to. I don't think they will. I mean, we have the touch bar. Honestly, that down to this day I feel is still a gimmick, mind you. But again,
different conversation for another day.
Put that to the side. I don't think so. And come rain or shine, Apple are going through with this, whether we want to or not.
But here's the thing. I know Apple is known to trend set, if I may put it that way. But the trend right now is very touch based. Like, society is becoming a touch fast society. So do you think like Apple is falling behind and neglecting the fact that, you know, the world is moving to more touch based systems? Or do you think they don't, like, for them as a business, they're not going to target that particular person who is a touch first person, but is targeting the other guy?
Well, I would say they have something for both. Touch first, you've got the iPad. If you want to do more computer stuff, you
Jump
have
to
the
the
Mac.
other side.
Unfortunately, the Windows side of things has got us a bit too used to that flexibility. And I say unfortunately because as somebody who has a touch screen device, it's always a pain point to go to someone's screen and try flicking, and there's
so you do
nothing.
find yourself using touch a whole lot more than you do with your trackpad?
I'm not going to say a lot more, but in certain use cases, I will find that, like, for instance, when I'm reading an article, I find it so much more intuitive to just reach up, have my hand resting on, or have my arm resting on the table or whatever, and just scroll. It's so much easier to do that. However,
it's
everyone.
natural in a way, in the 21st century at least.
It is, but again, not everyone feels that way. It's something that very many people who own touch devices, and I know a few we work with who feel that whole touching of the screen leaves marks that they do not like. But I find it so intuitive.
It's an issue though.
For me, I mean, you just wipe it down and what have you. But I find it intuitive. A number of people find it intuitive. So for such people, yes, Apple, they're losing out on a lot. And I think I just lost my train of thought. But not too much. But yes, they're losing out on such people. But for such people, that's where they say, we've got the iPad.
But then the the iPad is still not there. It's. I mean, with the Pro lineup and the new iPad Air, I mean, we're making good strides, but just not yet.
Not yet.
Just not yet.
But
like,
that is
until
our
they
use
bring
case.
like, I don't know, support for Apple Pencil on the Mac or some crazy stuff like that. I feel like Apple is still like a century behind when it comes to interactivity. Right? I'm not talking now anymore about the silicon, which is a bit of a tangent, but when it comes to interactivity and where the world is heading, I feel like for the Mac lineup, it's still in the 20th century, arguable, or early 21st century.
Well,
no, that's not correct.
I mean, we've
but
got the
you
touch
get the
bar.
idea.
We've got the touch bar.
Come on. I mean, even I, as an Apple sheep, I'm like, yo. I mean, I've don't get me wrong. As a user who has used the touch bar before, it has its perks. If I should get many a times, I find myself being like, not so bad. It's like, I mean, I see where the designers and the engineers were trying to go with this thing, but I'm like, there's just something missing. Like, I've seen you interact with your device. I've seen you interact with touch. I've seen the amazing Microsoft dial thing that they have. That thing is fantastic. So if I benchmark,
with support.
Yeah, if I benchmark like touch, because Microsoft are the one who do it best as of this moment when it comes to like touch interactivity.
Slight caveat.
Yeah, I'm like, we have a long way to go, and by we I mean Apple and all you Apple ships out there. Like, we have a long way to go, but maybe the target market just happens to be entirely different.
Or maybe,
just maybe,
they might surprise us with a touch-based Mac
on the 10th
of November. Highly doubtful, though. Highly doubtful.
I'm no gambler, but I say no. I'll place my money on a big no.
But yeah, I guess we'll just have to wait and see what it means for developers in the transition. It's something we'll get to find out as time passes. But let's wait and see what Apple do.
Yeah,
let's wait and see what Apple do.
Yeah, anyways, this could be like a whole new conversation on Apple interactivity, philosophy, design, and stuff like that. But that's for another episode.
For this one, I guess
we leave it at here.
We call it a wrap.
Tell us what you guys think on about the 10th or about the future of Apple Silicon, and what is Apple's head at? What are they thinking? What are you thinking? Are you a Mac user? Are you an iPad user? Are you a
what?
Microsoft Chromebook user or something? I don't know. Are you a are you any user?
ignoring prompts from our producer.
Mm-hmm.
We shall I guess we shall wrap this up for now.
Yes.
And wherever you guys are, stay safe, stay positive, and stay healthy.
And stay hungry for knowledge.
My friends.
Geek out.